And now I've been given the honor, and it is an honor. This morning, Bruce asked me to introduce our speaker for the day. I've known Tom Baker for many years, and we've supped together a time or two. And mostly we've seen each other kind of in passing between microphones at various churches around the Tidewater area. And every time I know that I'm going to be doing a service with Tom, it's always warmed my heart, because he's a master communicator of God's love. In his past, he was a former Catholic priest, and I suspect that's where he first saw some big wide grins from God in his service there, because he loves to use the telling technique that the Master Jesus used in sharing personal stories that we can all relate to, and in the process lacing through those stories the theme of his talk, which is always very pertinent and simply profound. You know, Paul used to say that that it takes great teachers to complicate the simple truth sufficiently enough so that we understand it better. But Tom, on the other hand, just simply shares from his heart and from personal experience, and I think you'll find it quite refreshing, and I suspect full of laughter and joy, as that's definitely a part of his great gifts that he brings to us as well. So without any further ado, will you please welcome to the podium Tom Baker.
No water today. I have to make it through. I got new glasses. I look like a rocket scientist, don't you think? Well, in addition to my counseling, I sometimes do past life regressions. And if people get really deep into the past life regression, we go to their death in the former life, and they go into spirit. And I get to hear what it's like to die. Dying will be the best day of your life. I know. You all are thinking, I'm ready to leave now. This is supposed to be about Christmas, not about croaking. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. But what makes death so happy is that people go back to their groups. You all will return to your soul group. Edgar Casey talks about this, and I have seen it happen before my eyes. Almost always the person bursts into tears. They are so happy to see those people again. Those are the people that life after life come back with you often and love you just for who you are. I was lucky enough in this life to come back with a member of my soul group. She's right back there. So it will be hard for me to leave her in this life. I'll be kind of divided, I'll be on my deathbed taking my last breath, and I'll be croaking, and I'll say, God, I'd hate to leave you, but the rest are there. So off I'll go, and that's where Jeanette is today. She's with that group. She misses you, of course she does. But she's with that group that just adore her and who she adores. And it's wonderful. It's great. Now, there will be a time when Jeanette will have to come back here, probably. In the New Age, we all say that this is our last life. I'm not coming back again. And God goes, ha, 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 ha. Sure you are. Well, coming back again is kind of a rough deal. You look over the edge of heaven, which is great, and you look at what you're heading for. Leo Russell, who is the wife of Walter Russell, and a mystic along with Walter, said that coming back to Earth is like going from a 5-star hotel to a tent in Siberia. So there's not a lot of, oh boy, here we go. So it takes an adventurous and optimistic spirit to come here. We really do live in a place where angels fear to tread. We're kind of the Marine Corps of the universe. All of us. Doesn't matter if you made it this life or didn't make it or you didn't think you made it or whatever it is, you're amazing. You came here. You've got spiritual guts. Because over and over again, people in one way or another describe Earth as a severe planet. It's never been good here. There wasn't a time way back then when things were hunky-dory. ISIS has looked like a lot of other groups of people. Okay? There's always some bastard coming to blow your village up. It's bad. Okay, sorry, Kathy. Kathy does not like me to use cuss words. So there's always some despicable human being that's going to come blow up your village. So, but it's not the conditions here that make it bad. We think that if only we could get the right house, the right car, the right neighborhood, the right something, that it would all be all right, the right conditions. And we all have that dream. When I get married, when I win the lottery, when I get divorced, it's always going to be better. No, it don't work that way. Conditions don't make you happy. And they actually don't make you sad. The problem is our consciousness here in the earth. We have what I call the consciousness of judgment. Casey called it the consciousness of self. You probably know it as the ego. It's that thing in our mind. It's not us, but it's this something, it's a whole system of thought in our minds that sees us as opposed to and separate from God and each other. And that's what we're trying to heal in the earth. That's what Christmas is about, that's what Easter is about, and that's what our lives are about. Now, the easiest place to see the ego, that self-oriented, judgmental consciousness, is marriage. How many of you have been married or are married? Okay, so you've been to Earth. Edgar Casey called marriage the hothouse of forgiveness. Isn't that an interesting way we should say that at every wedding. Welcome to the hothouse of forgiveness. If you noticed, when you were courting that person, when you were dating them and falling in love with them, you found every good thing about them that was there. They were insightful, they were gentle, they were kind, they were loving, they were supportive, they were beautiful, they were sexy, they were just so golly. You couldn't shut up, you were so excited about them. And then you got married and something happened. Eventually. It didn't happen maybe right away or all the time. But the tendency to judge and criticize the person somehow started coming out of you. And you kept thinking to yourself, usually you didn't say it, but you kept thinking to yourself, that person has to change. They didn't get the memo. They need to change into something like myself. And so what happens is that judgments and resentments build up. And we kind of make the other person an enemy. A sweet enemy. We're kind of sweet to them much of the time. Come on in. It looks like you're ducking under bullets or something. But we have this kind of critical eye towards them. And I was fortunate enough to get married to a woman who didn't criticize me. I criticized her roundly for years. And she just said, "You're mistaken." She didn't get mad at me. She didn't, threaten to divorce me or kill me or anything like that. She just said, "You're mistaken, Tom. Lighten up, babe." And what I started to notice in her was that she never had a bad intention towards me. Never a bad intention. And she related to me as if I never had a bad intention towards her. That did it. We have not fought for 10 years. Because I know her intentions are good. Now, she may be clumsy, she may be mistaken, she may be forgetful. She has a temper.
You are mistaken.
Wait till we get home. Well, I'm willing to be wrong. Yeah, Kathy's human, put it that way, okay? We'll just kind of run on after that. But we always want a relationship that's safe and loving. And I would say we bring that about by just that. I really look to the innocence and the well-meaning of who I'm with. The ego is afraid to the point of terror of love. It is terrified that we're going to get too close, that we're going to love each other. And so we start to criticize and judge and dismiss. And eventually, the person backs off. And the ego says, "Phew, thank goodness." Now, We don't really want that. We really down deep want love, and we want safety. The Pope has proved it. Here the Pope was on an airplane at a press conference, and somebody asked him about homosexuals. Now you have to remember that in the Catholic Church, being homosexual is a sin. You're supposed to somehow get over it. Just think real hard of Nancy Reagan. Just say no. And somehow, miraculously, you will turn into a heterosexual person. Well, that doesn't work. Well, the Pope, when asked about homosexuals, said, "Who am I to judge?" In that moment, a lot of the world relaxed. People said, "Really? He's not judging us. We're okay." Last Christmas, there was a man who was covered with tumors. He looked like a human mushroom. He was despicable looking. People avoided him. He lived a life entirely by himself. And he was in the crowd. And the Pope walked over to him and kissed him and kissed him and hugged him. And the whole world went, "Thank God." They relaxed. On Christmas, those shepherds, those people at the inn, the three kings, they look over the rim of that cradle and look into the eyes of God, looking back at them through the eyes of a baby, and they relax. Thank God. God is not this manic, out of control alcoholic in the sky. God is a little child, doing what little children do the best, loving you back. Yeah. That's the revolution that is Christmas. We all have in our minds this ego whose God is very, very vicious. I've told this story here before, but it's pertinent here. When I was at my second parish on Easter, it was on Good Friday, it wasn't on Easter, excuse me, on Good Friday. The priest had just finished reading the Gospel of John, the reading of the day, and it ends with, "It is finished," when Jesus dies. At that moment, lightning struck the church, and a big stained glass window in the back exploded. I have never seen anyone get off of the podium as fast as Father Al. And everyone was looking like that. It was like the big monster is back. We had an enormous crowd on Easter. Now that was a coincidence. There was no meaning to that. It was lightning struck the big window, that's all. But everybody for a minute thought, "Oh my God." I had a mystical experience once. I won't go way into it because I've told it so many times before. It was the big moment of my life in which I noticed that everything was full of light, but more than that, everything was happy. The road was happy, the fence was happy, the barn was happy, the grass and the tree and the barbed wire fence, all of it was happy. And when I looked up to heaven, I sensed that God was happy. And then I said, well, you wouldn't be so happy if you walked in my shoes a little bit. And all the light went away. Just like that. So the secret of God is not awe or fear or judgment. The secret of God is innocence and love and openness. That will save the world. That will melt the ego. It's important to remember that at Christmas, Christian doctrine does not come into the world. Love comes into the world. That's the point. Now, it's been interesting to me that when I talk to those folks who are coming back to earth, I always ask them what their purpose is for incarnating. At first, I expected them to give very detailed lifetimes that they were going to live, a kind of optimistic blueprint of what their life was going to be. I was hungry for details. I have never gotten them, ever. What everyone says, every single person, is that I am going to bring love into the world. That is our purpose. Everyone says it, and we all try it. As mothers, as fathers, as sons and daughters. And whatever we're doing, as spouses, as parents, as friends, as teachers, doctors, workers, servants of one kind or another. We're bringing love into the world. That's what we're about. Even if we don't look the part, it's okay. Now, I bet you, if we had interviewed Jesus before he came in at Christmas, and we asked him, what is your purpose with the world? He wouldn't have said, to start the Catholic Church. Or to be even the savior of the world. Those are big egotistical kinds of images. I suspect what he would have said, I'm going to bring love into the world. His purpose and our purpose are identical. Now here we are, this little group, huddled in this little stable. A little bit of light of the world. When Jesus said that his disciples were the light of the world, it was a term that he used for himself and for them. It's the only term about himself that he shares with them. We are the light of the world. So this Christmas, when you get fed up with the advertisements and the materialism, when you get fed up with all the gifts you have to give and the gifts you didn't get, go to a drugstore and stand outside and listen to that guy ringing the bell. You don't have to give anything. But know that that bell ringing is love ringing. It says, peace on earth, goodwill towards all.